Welcome back to another top 3 videos, folks. Only 22% of you that watch these videos are subscribed to the channel, so I'd really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and leave us a nice comment down below, or a nasty one, I don't mind either. Today we're going to be taking a look at what I consider the top 3 medieval games out today. Now I want to be very, very clear here. I'm talking about top 3 medieval games, not top 3 medieval mods, because if we took mods, I'm going to tell you honestly that a lot of the Total War mods for games like Attila would probably beat every single game on this list. That being said, we've got what we've got to work from, and we still have some great stuff. Specifically, Field of Glory 2 Medieval is what we're starting with. This game is a turn-based medieval game, something that I rarely see, and it is chock full of content. First of all, it's made by an amazing guy, Richard Bodley Scott. Just like John Tiller, he is a legend in the strategy games community, and we're going to be taking a look today at Field of Glory 2 Medieval. Now, the amount of campaigns you have here focusing on this time period are massive. Everything from Alexander Nevsky, the Prince of the Kievan Rus, all the way to Alexios Komnenos of the Byzantine Empire, to El Cid Campeador, all the way down to the Northern Crusades. And for those of you that aren't familiar with the Northern Crusades, this is an especially interesting one. Of course, the Crusades against Lithuania, Latvia, etc., that were pagan for a long time. So, of course, the church had to get in there and do its thing. And, of course, Timur the Lame. I mean, this is just incredible, the detail that a lot of these campaigns have. I want to be clear, though, you don't immediately get all of those campaigns. A lot of them are DLC. So, make sure to keep that in mind. But I want to let you know something. If you see this flashing button up here, download community scenarios, the amount of community scenarios available in this game far outstretches the DLC, and it has just about the same amount of content. In fact, a lot more content in some instances, and it's absolutely worth checking it out. But when we go to epic battles, man, things get even crazier. Everything from the feudal north to the Reconquista to the rise of the Swiss mercenaries, and of course swords and scimitars. So let's say you're a Crusades guy. You enjoy seeing the Crusades and even maybe learning about the end of some of the Khanates. Over here, of course, we've got the Battle of Manzikert, the Battle of Dorylaeum. These are all Crusader or Byzantine armies against Seljuk or Fatimids. And of course, over down here, we've got the famous Battle of Homs against Mamluk Egypt, against the Ilkhanid Mongols. I mean, just so much history here, and really just anything you wish. As you can see, of course, you can switch between the two. That's totally up to you. But today I wanted to take a look just at the feudal north. This is one that I think most of our audience is going to be a little more familiar with. Teings like the Battle of Hastings there. Of course, the Battle of Lake Peipus, the Teutonic Order against the Novgorodians. And I actually have a Teutonic Order Let's Play on the channel. You guys might have to search for it a bit, but it's worth checking out. Today we're just going to jump into the Battle of Hastings because I want to show you guys what the game looks like up close and personal. So let's do it, and we're going to be playing as the Normans. So as you can see, you do get, of course, objectives, and most of the time it's trying to rout 40% of the enemy troop. We're just going to autofill the line here and accept that. But you can see the actual detail here, very, very, very detailed. Now, it does have a board game look to it. In fact, we even see the sort of edges of the board there. So it reminds me of sort of like a miniatures game in many ways. But of course, we start off as the Normans. We want to get our shots off first. And you can see we've already started to engage the enemy. Terrain is huge in this game, as it damn well should be, being, of course, a combat game to begin with, but a medieval one. And we're just going to push forward with these Breton spearmen. Now, clearly, I'm not going to fight this entire battle, but I just want to show you guys kind of how the game works and what you get from it. And this might look like a large battle, but actually, in all, to consider all the battles in the game, this is a pretty small one, really. The Battle of Hastings here. Oh, gotta love those archers and those crossbowmen. So of course there is this initial skirmish phase, but depending on the battle you're going to be fighting, this might not even be a thing. You might just get straight into combat. In fact, some of the battles are ambushes where you either don't know you're being attacked or you're the one setting up the ambush. Those tend to be my favorite. As you can imagine, cavalry is huge in this game. Something that you can also do here is do a auto move for entire groups like you just saw there. Although I will say that this is probably one of those games where you really want to be paying attention to everything going on. You probably don't want to do those auto moves unless you absolutely have to. Like most of the games on this list, there is a multiplayer option. You can play with friends. It's absolutely something you can do. Keep pushing forward here. And of course, like you saw there in the beginning, you can choose what side to fight for. You don't need to fight for one side or the other. Even though in some battles, I'm going to be honest with you, the chances of you winning with certain sides are like non-existent. Here we go, and they'll end the turn. I just want to show you guys what happens when the enemy begins their turn. They're of course going to start off that skirmish phase much like we did. And there we go, folks. Now, of course, at some point you will get into combat. Dice rolls are a thing in this game. So RNG Jesus can play a part sometimes. But overall, tactics and strategy are even more important. For instance, if you get over here and get a flank attack, or especially a flank attack from behind, you're going to do devastating damage to the enemy. And there's sort of a disrupted system. So what I like about this, it's sort of like, if you hit the enemy enough times, they're going to get disrupted, at which point they're kind of disordered. They don't know what to do. If you keep on hitting them, they are going to break. And once they break, that can start a break throughout the line, which ultimately can culminate in a battle victory. Just a lot here to peruse. And for anybody that likes medieval games, you're going to want to pick this one up. Now, some of you are going to yell at me for this one. The fact is, I think Total War Thrones of Britannia is a good game. I really do. It's gotten mixed reviews. It does now currently have mostly positive reviews. But I think in terms of medieval times, this is going to be one of the best visual representations you can get. And obviously, in terms of combat, a really, really fierce game. Again, lots of different groups to choose from, although we are focusing specifically on what would in the modern day be called the United Kingdom. But this is really a conglomeration of Vikings, Normans, British, Scotsmen, and you get to decide to play amongst any of them. I think it's just beautiful. Now, we're just going to jump into a battle quickly here, but you can see there is a lot of elements here. There's also difficulty settings which you can mess around with, make the political element of the game a little more interesting. I recommend people just keep this on hard, because then you don't only get a war game, you get a politics game too. But today we're looking at exclusively war games. If I did a separate political games video or even just a separate medieval games video, I would have very different choices and selections.
Long have the Vikings raided our lands, but nothing prepared us for their great army. For a decade we fought them, the tide of battle ebbing back and forth. Until finally, they were defeated, and their great army fled our lands. Now, England lies divided, its old political order washed away. Too long have we fought amongst ourselves. Now is the time to unite as England.
Now, some of you may not put that much stock into that, but I absolutely love storytelling. And I think especially in the strategy genre, storytelling is often something that is kind of overlooked. We've got the existing historical narrative, and people seem to think that that's enough. It's not enough. You know, I want the story told to me. I want an interesting thing to fight for. And I gotta tell you guys that that's one thing that Thrones of Britannia does really well, is it puts you in this medieval England where you're not sure what the next step is gonna be. You're not sure what your goal necessarily is. I also have to say that the artwork for me, in just the way the units look, is so well done. And I really wanted to put Medieval 2 on this list. I might still do that. I still consider it one of the best, if not the best, medieval war game out there. However, we did get some pushback on the previous video that our games were not recent enough. And to be fair, I kind of get that. We could probably do like an old school games video that is a little bit more specific for games of that time period. But of course, as you can see, there is a whole bunch of things you can purchase. I'm going to get some long axemen. I'm also going to get some wonderful horsemen. Now, it's going to take some time for them to get here. I also think the armies are appropriately named. I did not select that name, the Swine Array, but I think it's hilarious as a name for a standing army. Let's get back across the bridge and let's go and take on some of England's enemies. Of course, we are playing as Alfred here, and Alfred's got his own experience, his own personality, even his own wife. So if you're like me and you like the dynastic element of these games, which again, I would put Crusader Kings 3 here if I was doing dynastic medieval games, but that's here, and I like that, which means, obviously your family will carry on, as you can see there. Look at that. We've already got a daughter, Aethelflaed. Edward is going to be our son. Hopefully this will go well, but over time, Alfred will likely pass, and we'll have to pass the crown on to someone else. Now, another thing that for me gives me a lot of love for this title is the aesthetic. A lot of the times when you're playing medieval games, every single soldier looks identical. Like, for instance, all of the knights have the same armor, etc. I like that here they showed the spearmen the way they should be. They're cheap levy troops. They don't have a lot of money to spend, and obviously they're not going to look all that good. It's not going to be like some crazy medieval war movie where everybody's going to have the best armor. That's just not going to be a thing. Now, in this particular fight, we're really facing a small rebel force. So I'm just giving you guys a small taste of the combat potential here, but I honestly think it's some of the best you can find in games like this. It's very sort of disordered. I don't mean like a lack of control, but the men will, different things in battle are going to affect them. The strength of the foe, but also the position they're in, much like as in medieval. And I think that's just perfect. You can actually see the rebels already fleeing in terror, trying to get some cover in the trees from our bows, and you can see them actually keeping those shields up. And I have to say, even though these guys are rebels, again, they are pretty well armored for rebel troops. You would once again expect rebels to be poorly armored, but in medieval times, a lot of the times, people that could afford to be rebels, which would be rebel lords, they'd have some money. It wasn't just like, a band of peasant guerrillas all the time, even though they certainly make a large part of the rebel group here. Let's get them, cut them down. In fact, might even send in the cavalry and maybe Alfred himself to cut down these cavalry troops. I do want to make sure, though, that we watch them. Let's get our spearmen. Let's go straight for the attack. There we go. First contact. And again, this is a very small battle. There are much larger fights you can have in this game, don't get me wrong. Actually, we'll send these men around.
See, they flee before our might.
See what I told you guys about the ambushes? Look at that. And we're going to take the second unit over here. It looks like we completely wiped them out. Now we're going to be going after the enemy here in the trees. But again, look at that beautiful armor on our enemy. And depending on what side they're fighting for, whether they be Picts or British or Saxons, Normans, or Vikings, they're going to have specific armor style. And I just love that. I'm sending in my favorite unit right now, the swordsmen. These guys are ruthless, and they look it too. Again, I think this is one of the most underrated of the Total War games. You know, certainly there are ones like the recent Egypt, which I think is just terrible, but I think this one is just a diamond in the rough. Doesn't get the respect it deserves. Is he running? Will he not fight? I want a proper sword fight here. Here we go. And if you've gotten this far in the video, make sure to type in sword fight in the comments. I always like to see how far you guys get in these and how I can change them in the future to improve them. And if you have any recommendations, I'm always open to hearing that in the comments. Now, I'm going to be bringing back the cavalry to flank the enemy. Let's cut them down. Swordsman against swordsman. We're actually going to have Alfred go for the archers, but our swordsman might cut these guys down before we even need to flank them. We'll see. Maybe not. Nope, cavalry's going to be arriving momentarily. This will be a good end to this particular part of the video, too. Get them, boys. That's going to be the end for the enemy. Of course, like any Total War game, you get to decide what to do with the prisoners. The options here, if you're a Viking versus if you're a Mercian, for instance, are going to be very different. Vikings can take slaves, thralls, etc. I don't believe we can, but I could be mistaken. This is, after all, a pretty vicious period. Send in the king. And there we go. They're going to flee right into Alfred's grasp. And as you can see here, the king units aren't always going to be using, you know, they're not always going to have horses with them. Well, that's something that I kind of had to get used to. So we're going to need the horsemen to run down that levy infantry. And again, if you have any games you recommend, I want to hear them. Tell me what you guys consider the best medieval warfare games out here, and maybe we'll cover them in the future. Get them. To be fair, they held out for quite some time. And again, I think even that element of the battle, the sort of chance at the end of the fight, I love it, because for each culture you choose, or whichever culture you choose, it's going to be somewhat different. And there we go. We could take on warriors, we could kill captives, or we could ransom and release them. But again, if we were Vikings, we could even turn them into thralls. So let's go for the new campaign. There are a lot of scenarios here, like I said, but I find the campaign to really be like the saving grace of the game. Now, again, if you had some of the DLC, and there are quite a few DLC, you get a lot more options for this, but we're starting with just the basic, a new company. It's all about doing a mercenary company. And as you can see here, lots of late game crises. There's also the permanent destruction ability, where cities can be permanently destroyed. I think it's awesome. I recommend you keep it. You can, of course, name your company, and you can select a company flag. I love this one with the king who's cut his own head off. That's just really, really cool. Now, of course, if you want, you can select Iron Man mode. But what I think really stands out here, what really wins me over, is this map seed. And as you can see, that map seed is going to make every single game a different setup. It's going to be a different world, different cities, different factions, etc. You can also select an unexplored map where you don't see hardly anything except what's ahead of you. I think this is really tough for beginners, so I would recommend probably not doing that to start off. But if you want a legitimate medieval tactical war experience, yeah, why not? Go for it. So let's jump in. We're just going with the very starting map. As you can see, I mentioned it in my last part of this video, I love a good story when I'm playing my strategy games, and this one really explains how you're part of this motley crew of mercenaries. You don't have much, and you're trying to sort of make a name for yourself, make a name for your mercenary company. And I feel that mercenary companies, and also the feudal aspect that you get from this game, as you can see, a tavern, you have a marketplace, you've got a higher area where you can hire other mercenaries, and quite often they come with very troubled pasts themselves. They all have their own story, and I think that's a really appealing part of the game. Also, most important part that makes this sort of a medieval game is you're doing contracts for lords, and quite often the contracts just involve taking an item from one location to the next. So for instance, we're getting 350 just to haul this loot across the map. But amongst the way, we could have problems. We could be attacked by bandits in Sudhelm. So we've got to head north, and of course we've got to try to find Sudhelm. We can see some of the map, but a lot of it will be covered, and we're going to head over here and hope that we get into a nice little fight. If not, we'll make some additional money from completing our mission, and who knows, perhaps we'll also get some additional... Oh, there we go, never mind. This is what I wanted to show you guys. So many brigand thugs and a brigand raider, and again, we only have 4 guys, so this likely is not going to go too well for us, but we can certainly try. And hey, that's a great first shot. You don't usually get a kill on a number 1, but I'll take it. I'm also going to move the crossbowmen a little bit closer, and I want to make sure that we stop these brigands. You can see the injuries, man, they stick around. Like once you have an injury, you've got it for good. And you can get basic injuries like, you know, just a split ear, for instance, or you can get severe injuries like being dismembered. Of course, I would recommend getting a couple more mercenaries for a fight like this, but you don't start off with a lot of money. You need to earn the money by doing jobs for lords. That's the way to do it. Let's get him in the guts. It's a nice hit right there, a grazed neck, and he's wavering. And like I said, the medieval element here is that the injuries they take, they're gonna slowly get worse. They're gonna get infected if they're not treated, because medicine is not that important here. And your own men, as you can see, are in danger of death. Wigmar there just took a horrible hit, and they're probably going to be cut down, but we can certainly try and do a lot of damage to the enemy before we're defeated. And there we go. We actually got this guy to start bleeding, although there's not much our crossbowmen can do. We'll get a nice bolt shot here at the brigand thug. And we did hit him, but he's still got a double grip on his weapon, and it doesn't look like he's going to be going down. But I can't get over the actual warfare in this game, and you can see he's still bleeding. There we go, another brigand down. Who knows, we might be able to get these guys to retreat, although I think that's going to be asking a lot. Oh, I don't want to move there. I want to move there and kill this bastard. There we go, a decapitation. That's right, you can lose your head if you're not careful. It goes for a lot of things in life. Oh, just lost our buddy there to the north. It's going to be a tough fight, guys, and the brigands may win out on this one. Now, just like in medieval, the thing about this is disruptions matter. So you can actually disrupt the enemy to such an extent that they simply retreat out of fear. As you can see there, we decapitated another one of them, and I might go for number 3 here, and that might get them to just say, you know what, these guys are too tough to fight. We're going to have to fall back and come back another day. And I really want to kill this guy. He's so close, too. Although, like a proper hardcore game, what could happen is you lose your mercenary company, which is exactly what's about to happen here. I think if we had one more mercenary with us, we would have been okay. But because we didn't purchase that next one, we may lose out here. Okay, another one down. And as you can see, they are somewhat disrupted, but so are we, man. So are we. They're getting a lot of really vicious stabs in here. And even if our guys make it out of this one, we are going to need to recover for a long, long time. Give us final victory, or give us death. Oh, I knew that spear was going to be brutal. Come on, we've got it. We've got to get a head chop here. Let's get over here. I think we actually get one head chop, and we missed. That's not something we want to miss, but I'm going to keep stabbing the brigand thug, and the reason is because he's already very hurt. By the way, I love the gore. I don't know if that's just me, but I love seeing bodies on the ground on these games. It just gives us such a realistic feel. And there we go. The enemy retreated, and we can actually decide to run them down or just declare it's over. And I think it's fair to say it's over. Now, I mentioned that your mercenaries gain loot, or I should say gain experience, which they do, but they gain loot as well. Look at all of these weapons, 148 gold, and we're hopefully still going to get paid for the job we didn't accomplish. So even though our guys are badly hurt, the two that we managed to keep, they're going to be quite valuable, I believe. In fact, I think I might go to Zugfest quickly and just buy an additional mercenary because we're pretty hurt. But I hope you guys get the idea. And over time, you can actually gain favors with these noble families. You can see there's a few different ones on the map. Sometimes there's 2, sometimes there's 3. And once you gain favor with these families, you can move up in the feudal system, as one could imagine. We're about to hire a guy called the Betrayer. I don't think that's good. Let's go to Wigmar, who had a difficult life in a caravan. He sounds like somebody we can at least trust not to cut our throat in our sleep. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. Again, there's so much more to every single one of these games that I'm putting up here, but I'm just trying to show you guys the basics and give you guys some ideas for cool new strategy games to play. So if you like that, like, comment, subscribe to our channel, consider becoming a channel member for as little as $3 a month. And I just want to thank everybody for stopping by and supporting these videos. Have a great one, and let's turn the Agrippa Maxentius channel into a big one.